Sure. Thank you, Lindsay, for inviting me. And my name is Ying Sa. I am the managing partner for a CPA firm called CommunityCPA.com. And obviously, as a CPA firm managing partner, and my main job is to run the CPA firm and the CEO as the CEO role of the company, just to manage the firm going forward. History, I do have 50 some years history here. I was born in China and immigrant to Toronto, Canada first with our family. And there I did my bachelor degrees and graduated. And then from Toronto, Canada, I immigrant again to US, Des Moines, Iowa. And my husband at the time was the professor at Iowa State University. That's how I landed in this place where I really, I was making my husband, Dr. Howe, to promise me that this is not a place we're gonna be, because from Toronto, Canada to Des Moines or Ames, you can imagine the difference. And I was in the culture shock, even bigger than from China to Canada. So that's how I landed here. And while I'm here, I actually did have a job when I came. I worked at Iowa State University as their CFO for a outreach extension program. So I was there for 6 years. And while I'm there, I tapped into the needs of the community. This is where community CPA come about, because I probably at that time, back in 1996, around that time, I probably one of the highest ranking work-wise Asian individual in town. So when business owners and people, Asian folks who had issues, they just know that I speak good English. That's really the only reason why they come to me. So I sort of just gathered some people and to know me. So from those people who know me, and I start to, accidentally practicing accounting, tax. I didn't really meant to be anything big or anything permanent, but it's just really helping people. So that's where community CPA is coming about. Just like I was mentioning how I started the business, right? It is, I am literally the accidental entrepreneur, not meant to be entrepreneur, but I sort of step into the needs of the community. So with that, obviously the product is really not something like I had a business plan and I write about what I want to do. It is all coming through the needs of the community. So I remember the first service, which is my product that I offer to the client, is the couple who runs the grocery store, and they got into issue with the state where they Des Moines River has fish, and the homeless people fish the fish and then sell to the store. They are reselling it, and that is actually it's a civil crime for commercializing wildlife. So they got into this really big criminal charge on on what they do, but really was very innocent because they were trying to help the homeless people. So that was the case. The couples got charged with $39,000 money, and also a 20 years sentence, jail sentence for what they have done. So they, after that is all done and they got their probations and everything, they came to my home and, talked to me because someone told them that this lady might be able to help you. So the service I provided was simply connecting them with Drake Legal Clinic. So have that charge on them be reverted. And that took 4 years. But out of this 4 years, remember I was working as a full-time job. So I actually I used all of my vacation to deal with this case. So when I finished that one, obviously one of my product is to troubleshoot things that wasn't done properly with the government, and then let's just resort it out and then find justice, right? I'm not attorney, but I work with the Drake Legal Clinic to get that accomplished. So I am known to the community for knowing the right and the wrong, and then knowing where to go about to finish that. So that become a product. And this product, I don't even have a price for it because I was doing it for pro bono, for free. But what happened is the business owner, after I did that, and he got the $39,000 refunded back from the government, and he wants to buy me a car. And I told him that I don't need a car and I don't need the money because I never really meant to charge anything for you. Then what this business owner did for me is to set up an office so that I can come out of my home office doing it a part-time here and there. He said that just come to Des Moines and here is your office, no rent, and we want you to be here because we feel safe. So that's literally how the business started, with no business plan, but yes, do have a price tag for that. And I have been giving that price. So with time, I knew that obviously the products start to grow as well, right? The content of service. So we do provide bookkeeping, tax, and then now the firm is also doing audit. So we really handle most of the CPA firm, what they do and we do as well. So it's a typical CPA firm, and the product we offer is service, and the service is arranged in attestation and audit and tax and accounting. And the origin of all of these services and product is coming from the need of the community. We really did not invent any. We're just trying to meet the need of the community. That is why our firm name is not anybody's last name, but is called communitycpa.com. It's such a great question. I always want to tell people that it is, I myself, because I grow up in China and, have this very traditional Chinese value per se, and it is just not a nature for me to borrow money. And to borrow money to buy our home, that is already almost a psychological burden. So even though we have to do that because there is not that much money as a new immigrant to come into the country, we do have to borrow. But in business, the way I did it, I did not use any leveraging. So what I did is I will literally, knowing that how much money I have, and when I budget for the growth, because every business you want that to grow, right? This first year you make 1 million, next year you want to make 1.5 million. You want to give that room to grow. And the way I handle that advance spending, which make me feel like I want to borrow money and I needed more funds to do it. The way I did it is I actually project that growth. So let's say I projected $500,000 growth, and I divide that into 12 months. So I know that each month I would have to generate how much more in order to have that growth. So I practically will envision the growth and then calculate it backwards into today's operation, how much I need to make, what expenses I have to incur in order to make that growth happen. So in service industry, and this is a very useful ratio for any student who hears this. In service industry, the profit margin should be about 1/3 of your sales. So when I say profit margin, that means, let's say if you make $900 as a sale, then $300 should be the profit. That means that $300 should not be used. That should be really be a profit. So you can use that $300 to either invest in the future or certainly become your vacation money. Okay. But the other $600, one of the 300 is your office and your business overhead, which means your rent, your utility, your internet, and all of those stuff, right? Then the other 1/3 is the payroll, which in the service industry, the real asset is not your furniture. It is not your computer. The real asset is your people. Am I right? So that need to be a big part of your expenditures. So now 1/3 of that should be paid to employee and should be paid to not just their salary, their insurance, their pension plan, their 401k, and anything you can imagine the employers are offering to their employee, and you want to have that all for your own people. You know, in CPA industry, one of the good thing is you actually see a lot more businesses, right? So like in our firm, we have more than 10,000 clients collectively and with our branches. So really we see so many businesses that we know what other businesses are doing. So some businesses are doing really good. They have a cash balance plan. So then, you know, from my standpoint, when I see that, and I want that to be happening here with my folks as well. So I'm literally picking all the cherries that I see, and then to put that into the firm. So to grow this business, communitycpa.com. So to Lindsay, to kind of answering that question. So the budget is really important. The budget is important, but budget need to be futuristic. You cannot do budget based on history data goes, oh yeah, last year I spent $500 on utility. I'm going to budget for $500 this year for utility. That is a completely wrong concept for budget. Budget means futuristic growth is embedded in every line item you have on your list. So that includes your payroll increase, includes your utility increase, because you may get a bigger facility. So I guess to make things really visionary and simple for every student to get, knowing that every time someone asks you to do a budget, and your biggest job, your best job is not because you know the history, it's because you know the future. And if you can combine the future with history as your basis, you are the best CEO in the company. Lindsay, that's a great question. I asked that same question to other business people when they grow. And at that time, I have one branch in Des Moines. So I asked, how did you decide to grow, to expand? And I also see business owners expand and fail. So expansion doesn't mean a guaranteed succeed. And expansion is a venturesome endeavor. In business, that could mean you grow bigger, could also mean that you fail miserably, even impact your first initial business. So in my own experience, how I ventured out to establish the branch, my answer to that is really simple. And I've been telling people that the reason we expanded to Iowa City, and because we have enough clients to support that operation before we set that branch there. And our office also, we also expanded to 2 other places, and one of them is still in the work. The other one is already operating, pretty new, and that is in Bloomington, Minnesota. Again, it is driven by the client. So we have enough of client. You may ask me, Yin, what do you mean by enough? When you say enough, is that 1 is enough, 2 is enough, how many? That enough is a number that you would have to calculate to support that operation. For example, I would calculate Iowa City branch, the one I opened in 2015, I opened that branch. So when I opened that branch, I knew how much rent it would be. And I also know that how much other expenses would come to. And then I already knew how many clients I have in that area, which I can make it local business and meet them locally. So I calculate salaries and I calculate clients' invoices that are already paying us. Then remember, I always tell you that when I do budget, and I actually always have that futuristic thinking in mind. So I don't have any gauge is about, okay, when you open up a new office in the local area, how many more clients you are going to have. I don't have that number, but the number I have is how many new clients we get as a firm wide in Des Moines. So I knew that number. Okay, we get about 500 new clients in 1 year in Des Moines. And we also have maybe about 200 clients didn't show up again after a year. So then the net is 300, right? The 300, I also know the size of how Des Moines works. So I will prorate, let's say Des Moines is 3 times of Iowa City in population, and then I will just prorate that 300 to 1/3. Then I know that once I'm there opening the door, I project 100 new clients to come in. Then I knew my budget. Then I know whether it is a doable matter for me or not. So I did that calculation. I'll tell you, I remember I projected number of client is right around 100. And that first year we ended with 159 new clients. So we're actually more, 50% more. So so the operation was success, and even in the first year. So since then, the Iowa City branch has been gaining momentum and it's growing every year. We have never had any year that to set back, including the 2020 pandemic year. So I hope that gives you an understanding of how communitycpa.com, community CPA expands. So we have clients from California. That's another one. We just have a lot of clients from California. So we set up a branch in California. We haven't really officially operating that yet, but it is already, the building is, the location is already there. And we are growing, we're continue to grow California at the same time, and calculating, the cost and the profit for setting someone there, sending people there, or hiring local residents to run the business. But I always say to people that it is really okay if the business is running smoothly, and anybody can be entrepreneur. But the real entrepreneur survives are the one have a really tough mental, someone that can face a lawsuit with a cool mind. Someone can face losses with hope for tomorrow. Not everybody can do it. And I will tell you that for me, and I learn, there are times, I remember the first time one of my key employee who resigned. The first time that person resigned, and I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks because that's a 2 weeks notice. And then I cried every day because I think that's the end of the world. I couldn't do it. If she's not here, I'm dead and I don't have tomorrow. And I gone through that. I'll tell you that it's not getting better really fast, because every time someone leaving the firm is almost like one of my kids tell me that I don't love you anymore. You take that really personally, but that is wrong. So that is something I learned. Obviously, I'm in my 50s, so I have learned this for 30 years already. So I can sit here and calmly tell you that, oh, kiddo, that's just life, and don't worry about it. Life goes on, and nobody is going to take down the world. Okay. And it's easier said than done. And you do go through that emotional roller coaster and to arrive to a place where you can handle that drive. And that's really the biggest challenge. A lot of young entrepreneurs, they give up so fast, and they fail and they give up. We see those people come through really energetic, very enthusiastic, and the business idea is brilliant. The next thing you know, they trash the business. They don't even try to sell it. They just trash it because they're so tired of it. They hate all of the employees. They hate the customer. Customers are bad customer, and nothing really working. And those are problem with that entrepreneur, not with anybody else. So for me, I call myself incidental, accidental entrepreneur because I really did not have any plan. So now I'm in it. I plan, I'm learning as we go, as I go. And there's a lot of obstacles I face. And with pandemic, in one day, all 30 some people has to go home to work. You think I have a 30 some computers to spare so people can take home? Of course not. So we have to work 24 hours to get computer ready so people can take the computer and go home, right? So those are the things. It's easier when I say that to you, it feels like a story, but it is not a story. It is actually a very hard learning and sometimes breaks you. So hopefully it doesn't break you. And I do have a book I wrote in 2019. And believe it or not, when I wrote that book, I was in depression because I have 2 employees are my top tier performer, and they dated, they got married, both of them quit together. Okay, so I gone through my depression, I wrote that book. And that book teaches myself and it teaches other people who read the book how to start up a business and the obstacles you face and you would have. So it is a storytelling business book called Appointment with Yin at 8 a.m. Get me excited. Yes, I have a long-term goal. And I tell people that communitycpa.com is going to be an online CPA firm with physical locations across the country, providing business services, accounting for business services across the country. So imagine HR Block is not CPA firm. HR Block is a place where you do basic 1040 taxes. So we want that kind of visibility for communitycpa.com online, that all business owners with English as their second language to come and get their accounting, tax, their estate planning, their audit done and with us. So that's my 5 years goal. And we're actually working right to get there. And I know technology is the most important. So we're investing $500,000 into technology in order to bring communitycpa.com to be that what we dream to be. So for the starting of your career, I have to say that, becoming an accountant or CPA has one huge benefit that people don't talk about. And, in our business world, if you want to be a CEO of a company, even though it is not your own company, do you know that the easiest path for you to become a CPA is actually for you to become the accountant? Because all the businesses, the number, the budget, the futuristic business thinking, and to translate that into a number so you can give to each manager to accomplish, that is the key for every business. We talk about big data, and the big data cannot be without a brain. You can have a lot of data, but if you don't translate those data in a meaningful way, it doesn't help, right? So I think becoming an accountant, understand the finance, and learn, be able to generate the big data, that would definitely be a huge career path for anybody who wants to make a lot of money. If your goal is to make a lot of money, that's the path to go. And in terms of, my advice to the high school graduate, I'll say that you can never work a work without a joy for very long. If you don't like to do something, and just because your parents said that you need to do that, that may not last very long. You really have to find your own interest. And you may be saying that I don't really know my interest, and soon you turn into 40, you're still not knowing your interest. That's very unfortunate. I would say that you are really blessed if you right now knows what you want. I would really want to be that person, but I didn't, because I was really struggling financially when I was young. So I go with my career on whoever gives me the money. Nothing wrong with that. I did that and I find what I want to do, right? I love to do what I do, and I have never had a day that I'm tired. Even if I'm tired, I have a joy. So you want to get there. You want to be able to find something you want to do, even though you are tired, and you can still draw joy out of it. Then that is a meaningful life, and then it takes time. Okay, it's not gonna happen when you graduate. It's gonna happen when you go through life, and hopefully you are so blessed, and you will find that sooner than later. And I have seen many people at my age still don't know what their career is. I don't want to be them, and I am not. I found what I want to do, and I really wish that that is what you need to get to. If you don't hear me saying that, you may not even consciously realizing that's what you needed, but you need to consciously understand you are seeking something that gonna exhaust you, gonna kill you, but with joy. That's called hardworking. We say that, the young generations don't understand how to work hard. Maybe we give you more credit for that, maybe because you didn't find what's going to make you work hard and the worth of your work. That's why you are showing up that way. So hopefully you find your calling really fast tomorrow.
I've started doing this in 2013. I was 12 years old. That back then I did not do the farmers market until 2019 in May. And
so perfect. And tell me a little bit about what you do. You make gourmet cheesecakes. What does that mean?
That I sell it out to other people. I can take orders, like I always can do weddings. My minis are $2 and the whole ones are $30. And I also have one of these flyers right here I can give out to other people.
Perfect.
And it has all my flavors in it.
So name some of your flavors. What are the gourmet flavors that you do make?
I know my new one, I started doing the rhubarb, the strawberry rhubarb, I should say. And during fall, I usually start doing pumpkin.
So how did you develop these recipes?
I started doing, like the Philadelphia one, and then I kind of changed it a little bit.
Okay.
To make it taste better.
So you just started out with basic cheesecake, and through time, since you're in your senior year, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So over that time, you've just added to the recipe, and that's what's created the gourmet cheesecakes, I assume.
Yep.
I will say my favorite is anything with chocolate.
Yeah, that's sort of with mine also.
Yeah, you mentioned pumpkin and you mentioned strawberry rhubarb. I'm sure that you have many customers like that, but I will tell you my favorite is chocolate. I remember early in your business, I had the pleasure of getting a turtle cheesecake, a full one. That did not last long. I did not let my kids have any of it either. So I can attest to the deliciousness of your cheesecakes for sure. How did you know that you were ready to sell? Did you give samples?
Yeah, with my family. Then they decided that they wanted to try it out. And when I did 4-H, that also kind of started too.
Okay. So you just kind of provided samples. I think that's how I got my first cheesecake. I got a sample and then you hooked me, right? You hooked me. So yeah. Throughout the years when I see you selling, I try to make sure to stop by and buy a couple, that's for sure. So in your early days, and maybe even now, how do you buy ingredients? Did you get like a little loan from your parents? Do you have another job to help you buy ingredients? But I know there is some costs to actually making the cheesecakes. Where did that money come from? Savings, your family?
Basically both of them. And of course, during COVID, everything started going expensive. So that's why I charged the money pretty high.
So you've changed your prices because of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask you how much, you said you sell your minis for $2 now. How
Yeah.
much were they before COVID?
They were $1 and the whole ones were 25.
That's a great business decision. Unfortunate for your customers, but I mean, from a business perspective, that's fantastic that you've made that decision to change your prices. Hopefully, prices will start coming down post-COVID, right?
Yeah.
And then you have additional profits. So as we're talking about expenses, what are the primary expenses for your business?
For sure, it's those packaging, like the boxes that I get customers all the time. And
Okay,
I usually pre-order them.
so that's the big box for your whole cheesecake?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the most expensive. I hadn't thought about that. So what are some other ones? Cream cheese?
Yes.
Cream cheese, and the price of cream cheese, I assume, has gone up. Can I ask
Yeah.
where you buy it? Do you go to a Costco or a Sam's
For
to get
me,
better prices?
I'm usually Walmart because it's cheaper.
Really? And you just go in and they know you're coming. I bet they have some ready for you. Make sure that you have access to it.
I'm sure I'm probably the only one that the most customer that buys a lot.
So typically, when do you make your cheesecakes? Like, what's your baking day? Do you have a schedule?
I usually do it whenever I'm free, and sometimes normally like school days, I like to do it like after whenever I'm available.
Okay. And do you have an estimate of how many you make a week?
Usually the whole ones, it takes like a long time because they're like an hour to bake.
Wow. Okay. And your operations is still in your mom and dad's kitchen, is that correct? Or have you
Yep.
expanded?
I've
Right.
sometimes showed my grandma Dunleavy stuff too.
Okay. All right. That's great. So here's a family question. Do they charge you rent yet? Do your
Um,
parents charge you rent for use of their kitchen?
no, not at all.
Well, that is nice parents, because I think I'd be charging my kids by now. How have you grown your business? I know that you are at the farmer's market, but can you explain a little bit about how you made that decision to start having a booth at the farmer's market?
Like if you knew my FA advisor, Amy Grant, she decided to get me into DeWitt. And
Okay,
she pays for the booth for me all the time.
isn't that great? It's fantastic to have a good advisor and a mentor like that, isn't it?
Yep.
I can certainly say that Mrs. Grants is a good one in our community, that's for sure. So in addition to the farmer's market, I know that I've been at different events that have had your cheesecakes. Do you do weddings and graduations and
Yes,
things
I
like that?
did. I'm sure I'll probably have more during the summer this year, especially with me.
Who are your taste testers for the new products?
Usually my family is.
How about your classmates? Do you ever bring them to school so they can try them?
Sometimes they do, like big FA events, I do that.
That's perfect. Are there any plans for additional markets? New places to sell?
Don't really have a lot right now, but
Mhm.
I know during the summer, like Ragrise started, that I was at a Legion.
Perfect. Right. So we live in DeWitt. I don't know that we specifically said that, but we live out in Eastern Iowa in DeWitt. And that's just a little tidbit, because I know this video is going to be shared across the state of Iowa, potentially the country. But we had Ragbri. We were the last stop for Ragbri. And that's when I saw Drew's new shirt that he has on today, because he did have a spot at the Legion. So I hope business was good. We didn't have as many writers as I thought we were going to, but hopefully they found you in the Legion and bought some cheesecakes.
Yeah, they did.
Good. So you have Facebook, is that correct? Is that one of the
Yep.
ways you advertise?
Yep, and I also get advertised now on WLLR radio station on 610.
You do? That's
Yep.
phenomenal. So she advertises for you to come up to the farmer's market?
Yep,
She sends the,
they'd go like, you don't want to miss the farmer's market.
as Drew's Gourmet's cheesecake is there. That's perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so tell me the best part about this whole adventure from, I mean, over the course of the last 6 years, right? What's the greatest thing that has come out of your entrepreneurship and your business?
It started growing when I started in farmer's market in 2019. And
So-
I also do Tycoga at Welton in 2020 is when I
Okay.
started.
All right, and I know they struggled a little bit with COVID, but Tycoga is a winery by us, and they have a farmer's market as well.
Yep.
So what's been the most fun for you? What's made this fun?
Is now I'm over at the farmer's market selling cheesecakes, which I like doing those now.
Uh-huh. So do you like making the cheesecake?
Yes, I do.
Do you like experimenting to find new flavors?
Yeah, whatever like season comes with that one, like pumpkin, and there's also apple season, so I'm starting with apple.
Oh, good for you. I would like that. What advice would you give students at home or in school watching this video that have an idea and they're just kind of interested in starting an entrepreneurship? What advice would you give them?
Like for RFA, we do several scholarships. Like there's like an Iowa degree at state, and there's national up in Indiana.
Uh-huh.
That I'm also like the 2021 uncommon student for the Herbert Hoover.
Oh, okay.
That I'm giving presentation in October 23rd.
So take advantage of those opportunities, right? As they present themselves.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Because, you know, even though you're making money from your cheesecake business, this experience is providing you tremendous opportunities to share your story. So I like that idea. I like that advice that you're giving to students. How about a student at home that is really good at baking cookies, or that student at home that has a special interest in, pork production or something? What could you provide them any advice as to kind of how to take their hobby and turn it into a business?
Yep, you could do that.
You could do that. Just take some hard work and dedication, right?
Yep.
Yeah, hard work. That's for sure. I know that you work very hard at making cheesecakes.
My name is Jacob Van Manen. I am the co-owner of Van Manen Sweet Corn and Fresh Produce. We are over by Kellogg, Iowa, which is about 45 minutes east of Des Moines. A little bit of background about me. I grew up on a farm here in Kellogg, or just outside of Kellogg, where we raised corn, soybeans, hogs, cattle, and then what we're talking about here today is the sweet corn part of it, which would be the business that my parents kind of started probably 20 some years ago as a way to make a little bit of extra cash and maybe set up a little bit of a college fund for me and my sister. And then we just kind of took it over here probably about 10 years ago, just from a little couple acre little patch to a 15 acre endeavor that where we not only grow sweet corn, but we also sell tomatoes and melons and other fresh produce. And then my wife, Kate, is also involved with the business. And then I have two kids. One is almost 4 and one is 1. So I believe I am 4th generation here on the farm at Van Manen Farms. So my kids will be the 5th generation. So that's kind of how we all got started, I guess.
Who are your customers?
Yeah, so customers would be just anyone who eats, really. So, which is pretty broad, but so we do direct to consumer with our roadside stands in 2 or 3 different towns, and then we also do wholesale to grocery stores such as Fairway and Hy-Vee, and a couple other local smaller stores.
Jacob, how did the business get started and how long have you been in business?
So the sweet corn business started several years ago when my parents started growing sweet corn, just a couple acres, just a small little patch. And then me and my sister Emily actually took it over probably about 10 years ago now. And we've just been slowly growing it from just an acre or two of just sweet corn to we have about 15 acres now of sweet corn, plus just a lot bigger variety of other produce too, such as tomatoes and melons and some other things too, pumpkins.
So why did your parents choose to start growing sweet corn 20-ish years ago?
Yeah, well, I think it just started as just a little hobby project, I think, where they just grew some for themselves, just, to eat or to freeze or give away or just sell a couple dozen here or there to whoever wanted it. But they never really pursued it as looking at like a business. It was just more like a little hobby for them. Whereas Emily and I have kind of tried to take it to the next step of a real business and growing it into something that we can, well, the idea, I guess, is to make some money and continue growing. So
what are your primary product costs, your expenses?
No, the biggest costs would be seed, obviously, some other inputs like fertilizer, chemicals, labor would be another cost, and then one of the bigger costs would be land cost, or would be land rent to actually gain access to the land to grow the product on. But labor and land is probably the 2 biggest, followed by seed would be the 3 biggest things.
Have those costs varied over the last 10 years or so?
Not a ton. Labor is definitely going up, but as we've grown, we've had to start hiring a lot more labor. So obviously those costs are going up. But so as you grow, total costs are going to go up, but just cost per acre or cost per dozen produce hasn't really changed a whole lot. Or cost per dozen ears of corn.
How do you determine your price each summer?
Right. So I think when we started, when me and Emily started about 10 years ago, I think we were probably at $2 to $3 a dozen at our local stands. And then this past summer, it's gradually increased over the years. And then we're up to like $7 a dozen in town this year. So I guess the starting would got to price yourself at a point that the consumer wants to pay. And you've also got to kind of look at where other like competitors are priced at, because you don't want to be way higher or way lower than your competitors. Because if you're lower, then you're just shortchanging yourself, because you're not going to sell enough product to make up for that difference in sales price. And then on the other side, you don't want to be 50% higher than your competitors, unless you're really trying to market your product as just a superior quality product than anybody else's, then you might be able to get away with a little bit higher pricing. But there's just a couple different factors, I guess, and then the other factor is you got to price it at a point where you can make money or have a margin, because at the end of the day, that's the goal, or that's the main goal of the business, is to make some money, I think. So so all those things factored in.
Over the years, have you had to purchase new equipment?
So yeah, about 10 years ago, or when me and Emily started, we just bought a little planter, just a 4-row old corn planter. I think it was a couple $1,000 for just specifically for planting sweet corn. Other than that, we've always just used equipment that we've already had available on the farm, which is beneficial. And then the other equipment we use would be like vehicles for transport, like pickup trucks or whatever. But those are just kind of, those vehicles also kind of just already had on hand, I guess. So not really a ton of equipment specifically for this business. But when we started, we had just one stand and then maybe 1 or 2 grocery stores. But then, yeah, here this past year, I think we were, some days we had 2 stands open every day. And then some days we had up to 3 or 4. And then I think we were up to 7 or 8 grocery stores just in the area that we would deliver to 2 or 3 times a week.
Your parents started the business. It was probably your mom, your dad, and you and Emily out there picking sweet corn. Now who does the picking each morning?
Right. So it's usually me and Emily are out there every morning, and then we do have a couple of high school age kids that come help us harvest most mornings, and then a couple other retired individuals that like to do it just for the fun and something to do in the morning. So we have up to 6 people helping us in the mornings, and then we usually have 2 or 3 hired kids also running our stands.
Is it hard to find good help?
Yes, good, reliable help is definitely hard to find. Kids that, well, the easiest help that we've been able to find, or not the easiest, but where we've had good luck, is high school kids that looking to make a little bit of money in the summer. But yeah, finding kids that are reliable, that are going to show up and that are willing to work and learn, and not just are doing it because they have to, is definitely a challenge. But we've been pretty fortunate the last couple of years. We've had some really good kids working for us. So,
do you have any words of wisdom for say a high school sophomore or junior looking for a summer job? What are you looking for in an employee?
I've got to be able to see that you want to learn, especially being on a farm. There's so much to learn, and a lot of kids have no idea where to even start. So, but if I can tell you to do a task and maybe you don't know how to do it, you ask me questions, how to do it, and then you learn, and then maybe you know how to do it for the next time. The biggest thing I'm looking for when hiring an employee would be someone who is willing to work hard, would be the biggest thing. And then someone who is willing to learn and even go out of their way to see what needs to be done and ask questions if they don't know what needs to be done or how it's done. Those are the 2 biggest things. And then being reliable, showing up when you're supposed to, that can be a challenge as well. So show up, be reliable, ask questions, be willing to learn, and show an interest in what you're doing. Those are all, if you do those things, you're golden in probably any job that you ever apply for or have.
How do you and Emily advertise your business?
A lot of it is social media. We have a couple different social media accounts just for keeping people posted on different offerings or product offerings or sales or stuff like that. And I would say word of mouth advertising is pretty big too. Somebody that comes and buys our corn will go and tell their friend, oh, I got corn from Van Manen's. It was really good. You should go get some. That's probably a big one, but we don't really spend a ton of money advertising, like print advertising or radio or television or anything like that. It's mainly just social media and word of mouth.
I'm sure being a small business owner has been very rewarding, but of course, as anyone, you've faced some challenges. Do you mind sharing a few of the challenges you've experienced? For example, how did the derecho impact Van Manen Farms, and what lessons did you learn?
So the derecho of 2020 hit us last summer. That pretty well flattened all the corn around us, basically. So that was definitely a challenge. Basically ruined part of our crop, but thankfully it was late enough in the season where it didn't ruin, like, because it went through in August where we only had a week or two left, which was kind of nice, or we were thankful for that, I guess. But yeah, just the bigger part of that storm was actually the rest of the farm was with buildings being destroyed and the field corn and stuff like that. Another challenge that we've had to go through here in the last year and a half was dealing with the pandemic, especially back in, when you look at March of 2020, where we had no idea what was going to happen. Would we be able to even open a stand that summer? But it ended up working out that summer. Actually, last summer, last 2 summers have been really good years, I think, with people staying home more, eating out less, was really helpful for small local food producers, really. But other challenges, anytime you're dealing with agriculture, you're dealing with weather. Like this summer, we had a considerable drought. So, but it wasn't a bad enough drought to really ruin a crop or anything. But you're always dealing with not enough rain, too much rain, dealing with other pests and stuff, and that you deal with growing sweet corn, like earworms and weeds and all that stuff. And
what are some of the lessons learned from those challenges?
I guess the biggest thing would be you just gotta keep pushing through, I guess. There's been a point or two here and there in the last couple of years is like, man, is this really worth it? Or man, this sucks. I don't know if I can do this anymore. But so then you've got to have that perseverance to push through and know that this is worth it in the end, because I really do enjoy doing this.
What is your long-term goal for Van Manen Sweet Corn?
So long term, we'd like to at least open up a couple more roadside stands, maybe get in some different towns, or get into the couple stands into the Des Moines area, because one of our limiting factors being in small town Iowa is there's only so many people that are going to buy your produce, whereas you get into some higher populated areas, just with some stands with good produce, I think could work out really well. So that's kind of the goal, I guess. At least open up a couple more stands, maybe branch out into some more wholesale side of it too. And then this year we just kind of started getting going with, we grew a couple acres of pumpkins. So we'll see where that leads to.
Do you see the third generation taking over Van Manen Sweet Corn someday?
I'd like to think so. I have an almost 4-year-old daughter, and she loves to come out at 6 o'clock in the morning and ride along and help pick corn. So that's really fun to see. So I guess at the end of the day, that is a goal as well, is to have something there for for my kids and then my sister's kids as well to take over, and then maybe at some point I can be able to do what my parents did and say that this is all for you guys. I'm done with it. So, but
Jacob, what advice would you give high school students who may have an interest in entrepreneurship?
right. So I guess if you want to start your own business, well, the first thing you got to have a product or a service that people need or want to buy, and then you've got to have a mindset that you're gonna make it work, I guess. And I mean, I've learned a lot as I've gone. I still don't have it all figured out, but then if you have that idea that for a business and you believe in it, well, that's the other thing too. You got to believe that your idea is going to work. And then sometimes your ideas might not work, but then that's also how you learn, is from those failures. And then how do you do it better the next time?